A big thank you to our $5 patrons, Sinners Lancelot, Praise the Sun, Strawbones, and Aaron. All of the demon slayers were preparing during pillar training, hoping to get strong enough in order to defeat the remaining upper moons and Muzan when given the chance. However, the highest amongst them felt strange. Something had breached their reality, but they could not find out how or why, and many of the lesser slayers did not even notice the disturbance. However, the pillars came together for a meeting. There is something wrong in the world, Guillaume declared, and the rest of the pillars nodded. I can't tell what it is, but the world has been feeling strange, like the air itself is heavier than before, Sanemi noted, and Shinobu nodded. There have also been sightings of lost loved ones, but that should be impossible, she noted. Do you think Muzan could have created demons out of corpses? We don't truly know the extent of his power, Igoro mentioned. But then the world wouldn't feel so strange. It would just be more demons, but demon sightings have still been zero ever since we started our training, Mitsuri said. What other explanations make sense then? Muichiro questioned. I don't know, but we'll figure it out. Every Ashira snapped to a familiar voice they were sure had faded from this world. What? Wengoku questioned, arms crossed with a smile on his face. Not happy to see me? Every pillar lunged to strike down what they thought was a mirage, but Guillaume slammed his hands together. Rengoku Kyojuro is here, and his sounds are that of a human, not a demon. Everyone froze, and Rengoku laughed loudly. But of course! I fought Upper Moon 3 for my right to stay human. So you remember that? Interesting. Shinobu noticed, shocked. What else do you remember? I am not sure about Rengoku, but I do remember dying in your arms, Shinobu. Shinobu was locked in the spot, hearing a voice she was sure she would never hear again. However, as arms snaked their way around her from behind, tears were forced from the young woman's eyes. Kane? Sanemi stuttered, and now confusion, joy, and mystery filled the air. What is going on here? Muichiro, why are you here? Muichiro turned and was shocked to find his long-lost twin. The twin he had lost to death itself. The young pillar couldn't help but tackle his brother and break down into tears, and the long, silent Giyu simply looked on with deep confusion hidden by a poker face. I'm shocked I was able to find this place so easily, but I'm glad to see you finally got bigger, Giyu. Giyu turned and found a young man wearing a mask, which was moved aside to show the face of a friend he had not seen in nearly a decade. He reached out and Sabito gave him a firm hug, causing Giyu to break down. Mitsuri looked on, greatly confused, yet quietly happy for the reunion of these lost loved ones. However, both Igoro and Guillaume were silent, writing down what all of this could mean. Oi, I'm happy all of you are having such a big reunion, but the master has something to say. The group turned to Tengen, who was flanked by his wives, with a new arm composed of dark matter. Everyone, there is much to discuss, Ubayashiki said, and noticed the dark matter coating and supporting his dying body, and a man with bright red hair and sad eyes was standing next to him. Tanjiro was resting when he heard Nezuko tear her way from her box, alert in the dead of night. Nezuko, you need to be quiet. Zenitsu and Inosuke are... Are you sure it's around here, Orokodaki? Tanjiro went rigid. He knew that voice. Oh, I'm sure. I doubt they changed the barracks around too much since our days. Zenitsu snapped awake instantly, hearing a voice he figured he would never hear again. Well, thank you for this. I don't know why I have returned, but I do wish to see my children. The door burst open, and Tanjiro and Nezuko both broke into tears, seeing the weathered face of a man who had left them long ago. Hello, little ones. Both rushed to their father, collapsing in his hold as Zenitsu cried at the sight of his beloved grandfather, who came in and hugged him. In another part of the land, Muzan was preparing for the final battle. The final decisive fight between the demons and the demon slayers. However, as he wandered the night, creating more and more demons and having Nakime store them away, he noticed that something felt off. The world was denser. That was the best way his enhanced senses could describe the phenomena. The life energy was much more potent, but strangely enough, it was not human life energy. And it wasn't demon life energy either. Muzan stopped walking and walked back to the Infinity Castle, and did something he felt inclined to. He summoned every demon of any notable strength or personality to this room, and he was shocked to find over half the candidates there. What am I doing back here? Daki cried in confusion, looking around as Gyotaro stood by, sickles at hand as they were surrounded by the lower moons. My lord, an honor untold to see you again. Anmu cried joyously, and Rui was silent as he stared at the man that he once knew as his master. The remaining 4 lower moons simply instantly bowed their heads and began to mentally sing the praises to their creator to not be killed again. Oi, hey boss man! The gun-wielding lower moon demon yelled, waving to his creator. My lord, was it you who revived my splendor? Gyoko questioned as the nervous Kaigaku first laid eyes upon the man who he let make him a monster. Oh no, I'm alive again. I'm scared. I don't want to fight anymore. Hatengu cried, hiding behind the biwa player Nakime, who quietly awaited her lord's direction. Kyogai stood by confused Akaza, who was looking at all who should not exist. My, oh my, everyone is here. Family reunion, Doma declared from on high, and Muzan stayed quiet, looking over everyone then locking eyes with Kokushibo. Half of his instinct was to slaughter all who had died again, but this was not his doing. He knew no demon who possessed this ability, and certainly no slayer. Kokushibo got a nod, and he stood to his fullest height. You all have 10 minutes to explain your resurrection, or else you will die by my blade. It appears that all those with regrets are being revived, Ubuyashiki explained. That is why my ancestors who died in peace do not again walk the earth. Yet this man, from the heir of my great ancestors, does. My lord, if you could please introduce yourself. I am not worthy of the title. My name is Yoriichi Sugekuni, the man who failed to kill Muzan Kibutsuji when I had the chance. Everyone was shocked that the original creator of the breath stood before them, even those who were also resurrected. I can never forgive myself for what I failed to do. Everyone here with regrets has them now, because of my failure. Silence fell upon the group, but Kane stepped forward. That is fine. The fact that we have this second chance is more than enough. You are only human. We all are. We can do it this time. I believe we have a more pressing issue than you foolish humans and your resentment towards nature. The voice that they all heard struck fear into their cores and lit a fire in the ancient blade. In a flash, the body that represented Muzan was torn to shreds, down to the molecules, and the demon slayers were ready, weapons drawn. As I said, we have a more pressing issue. You livestock are not the only ones who have revived. In an instant, the entire Demon Slayer Corps was reunited within the Infinity Castle, and Muzan himself stood above the entire group. The only one not being there was the Sun Breather himself. He cannot be allowed within a 10-foot radius of me, as he will not hesitate, just like I thought. But even you lesser creatures sense the imbalance in this world. Tension was thick in the air. Tengen and his wives were glaring down at Gyotaro and Daki. Hatengu was shivering at the sight of the young man who took his life, who was gritting his teeth at the sight of the man who slaughtered his family, only being held back by his father. The father was also holding back his daughter as well, who was also foaming at the mouth, while the father stared at the man with 6 eyes who was locked onto them, mainly the earrings that were once his and now were his son's. Zenitsu was gripping his blade tightly as Jigoro stared at his transformed disciple. Gyoko was fuming at the sight of not 1 but 2 of those blasted kids who had slain him, while Akaza was grinning at the sight of Rengoku, who had lost his smile as he ignored the eyes of the lower moon that he had slain and locked eyes with the upper moon that had slain him. Meanwhile, all 3 of the united Kocho sisters were glaring at Upper Moon 2, who was happy to see the beautiful woman he failed to consume. Everyone, focus. This is an unseen opportunity, Ubuyashiki declared, and all turned to the man whose disease was now halted. Muzan, may I ask something of your demons? As long as there is no treachery or threat, of course, Muzan said. May the humans and the demons who were brought back from the afterlife please say how you have returned. Silence fell upon the group, and suddenly it all came to them locking rigid and speaking in unison, in a voice that was not theirs. Do you regret what you have lost in life? Do you want another chance to right your wrongs? Take my hand. Come back and correct your mistakes. Both Muzan and Ubuyashiki were quiet, but Muzan spoke first. Interesting. So there seems to be some terms of external meddling, because there is no power of this world that I know of that could restore life, and restore the flesh of filthy creatures like yourselves. I can understand that. And I do not speak for Tengen, or our revitalized men and women, but what allows me to move freely is this dark matter, which appears to be completely immune to even Nichiren blades. Ubayashiki extended a hand to Tengen, who sliced at the darkness that ripped through his master's form, but the blade didn't even cut it. Simply put, I believe we must collaborate in order to defeat whatever has invaded our world. That simple statement sent the room into a mad frenzy, but Muzan stomped his foot and everyone went silent. I agree. You may be inferior, but your power will be useful against this threat. Muzan began to walk away. Kokushibo, Doma, Akaza, your role is to train the lesser demons and livestock. They must be strong by the time I return. But of course, my lord. However, I have a question. Will you train? Doma asked playfully, and Muzan glared. However, there was an answer. Yes, with what I fear. That shook every being there as they all vanished. In another world, 24 hours prior to the Great Resurrection. My lord, your exalted attention, if you please. The Demon King looked to Cusack, who was kneeling before the king. What is it, Cusack? As commanded, I have taken over Chandler's role. I am overseeing the interdimensional pathways in order to find worlds to conquer while he recovers, my lord. The reminder of the loss of his first son because of Chandler's failure irritated the king, but he kept his composure. Mostly. And what of it? There is a world with a man who claims your title, an organization that profoundly declares that it slaughters our own kind. Truly, what world would be so arrogant? The Demon King asked, and Cusack used a variant of resonant to link up his memories with his creators. I see. Son of Faith. Cusack nodded and bowed before going to get the commandment. That world would learn not to slander the Demon King's name, and then it would be conquered. Melascula stepped through a portal into a different world, and she scanned the entire nation she flew over. This world is shockingly weak. There's no one even strong enough to scuff Fraudrin, not to talk of me, Melascula thought to herself. However, she narrowed her eyes. She looked for something a bit more interesting that she knew she could find in any world. Regret. And from what she could sense, there was amazing amounts of it. She could most certainly use that to make this game all the more fun. All she needed was a player. Come to me, Vermilion. A month later, it was time for Vermilion to finally act. They landed in a town and began to casually consume souls, people running in terror. To think a creature as repugnant as you could cause such fear in me. Vermilion turned and grinned, finding the false Demon King he was sent to kill. However, standing alongside the king was a man with flames growing down his face and a blade at hand. In between them stood a man-turned-demon, young and in control as the first demon to overcome the sun and master sun breathing. Vermilion only laughed that they were surrounded by humans bearing marks and demons in their final states of evolution. All the warriors of this world aligning to defeat one creature, as the creature from the underworld watched from the heavens. This would be an interesting event. Vermilion roared out as all the warriors lunged in, and the battle began.